Before the video starts, I'd like to give a shout out to Christy Podokar, Football God 18, Pluto Hockey, Rocks 83 right now, Leslie Lame, Melissa Perpar, Gaming with Devin, Zach Gamer, Matt Ryan, Gillo Otobo, sub my main channel or unsub you, and Noah Washington, all for subscribing. If you'd like a shout out, just subscribe and comment that you have done so. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Devin's Retroable Gaming, and before we start this video, I just want to thank you guys all very much for subscribing, liking, commenting. We've been getting lots of views on videos lately, so just want to thank all of you guys for that. So in today's video, we will be ranking all 10 positions, and you may only see 9 right here, but there is one more pretty recently. It's not a designated position, but you'll get it when we include it pretty soon. But let's start it off. Number 10 is the offensive lineman. I think we all know this position is pretty useless. They really don't do much at all for blocking for your quarterback. It is like statistically proven that whether you have offensive linemen or not, it really doesn't make a difference. So I would not get a offensive lineman though, unless you really have the extra roster space and money. If you do, I would aim for the attributes of probably blocking the most and then strength though. So the offensive lineman is definitely the worst position in Retro Bowl. Now coming in at number 9, the second worst position. This is the one you didn't see at the start screen. It's actually the kick returner. So it's a little bit different because you can assign, I'm pretty sure, running back, wide receiver, or defensive back. Yeah, running back, wide receiver, or defensive back. You can assign any of those guys to be a kick returner. They are the position. They are still, like, this guy's still a running back, but then just whenever the other team does a kickoff or punts, it's this running back guy I have designated as a kick returner that will always return the ball. Specifically for kick returner, I would say the most important attribute is definitely strength and then speed to get through all those people and try to get a kick return touchdown. So a little bit weirder of the positions, but number 9, kick returner. And the reason I say kick returner is better than offensive lineman is because it does have impact on the game, unlike the offensive lineman, but still it's not super likely that you're going to get a kick return touchdown anyways. And it doesn't really matter where you start on the field as long as it's not too close to your end zone, but the rest of your positions can help you with that, and we'll get to those later. Okay, now at number 8 is the kicker. The kicker is just important for extra points, field goals, kickoffs, stuff like that, but I would honestly go for more 2-point conversions than 1 point. Maybe in your first year you don't have a good enough skilled players to catch 2-point conversions, but they're really pretty easy, and if you don't get them, you getting the 2-point conversions later on makes up for you just making a 1-point conversion with your kicker. I'd say some important things are game-winning field goals. If you need to kick it like 50 yards, it'd be really good to have a good kicker. Or onside kicks if you really need the ball back. Having a 5-star kicker will raise your percentage of getting an onside kick from about 5% to about 20%. So that's why that's really important. If you have enough money and you have enough roster space, I would get a kicker, but there are definitely 7 better positions. But a kicker is better than a kick returner and an offensive lineman for their impact late in close games. The most important attributes for a kicker, I'd say, is kick range, then kick accuracy. I've never seen speed used by a kicker, so it does not matter if that is very minimum. It doesn't matter at all. Now, number 7, we get into the defense. I have defensive back. Now, a lot of people may disagree with this. I think the defensive back is not as valuable as the defensive lineman or the linebacker. Here's why. Um, they're just gonna stay back, tackle the guy on the other team with the ball if they get deep. It's basically just a safety. But none of my defensive backs have won a defensive player of the year. They're not going to get interceptions. They're not going to get sacks. So really all they get is tackles, and it doesn't really show up on their stat sheet. And I've never had a defensive back win defensive player of the year. So that's why I don't think they are as good. But they are definitely good to have at least one defensive back. Like each team I have, I would definitely have a defensive back, but I would also rather have any other defensive position. But a good attribute for the defensive back is tackling and then strength. Now, the next two positions, I'm just going to say them. Number 6, defensive lineman. Number 5, linebacker. They're both really close. Okay, I say the linebacker is better than the defensive lineman because the defensive lineman is not going to get interceptions, but a linebacker is going to get interceptions, sacks, forced fumbles, all those kind of stuff. But a defensive lineman is not going to get interceptions, which a linebacker will. And linebacker is a little bit more of a leader on defense, and I've had more linebackers win multiple defensive player of the years than I have had defensive linemen win defensive player of the years. So they are really close, but I have linebacker slightly ahead at number 5 and defensive lineman at number 6. Number 4, some of you may be surprised it is this high. I honestly considered it putting even at number 3 maybe, but I have a tight end. Here's why. They are basically always open. You can just throw it to them and you'll get a first down most of the time. But another thing is if you have two tight ends, one of them can act as a tight end. The other acts as an offensive lineman that actually blocks for your quarterback. So that's why I have the tight end this high. But I think it is really important for a tight end to have strength and speed. Actually, strength is really important because they have to get through a lot of people because they'll be catching shorter passes and don't have a real route. So I think it's better for them to have strength and also be really fast. Okay, number 3 I think is a little overrated. Some people will put running back at 2 or 1, and I considered it putting it at 4. Putting the tight end over it. I ended up ultimately not, but I got running back at 3. I think they're a little overrated. Here's why. Because Retro Bowl recently, the best way to put it is it's a running back can't get very far. That's how to say it. Running backs get stopped very easily, and I've honestly never had good luck with running backs. I've never had a running back win an award. I know some people have like God running backs. I wish I could have someone like that. But they, to me, are always someone on my team that is really toxic. Sometimes because I don't pass them the ball enough, but that's because I want to go down the field more. And Retro Bowl, the way it works, running backs just aren't going to get as much yards as wide receivers or tight ends. So I think running back is not as valuable. So that's why they end up being lower on my list than some people. But it's, for me, honestly, I think it's kind of just, I don't like the position. I would much rather use a different position. I like using the running back as a receiver and a runner. It is very nice. It is good for a running back to have good strength and speed. I'd say just like a tight end, because it kind of is a tight end, except for it can also run, because if you do throw it to your running back, it's going to be a bit of a shorter route usually. But running back still very valuable. I'd say third best position. Now at number 2, I have wide receiver. Some people may put wide receiver at number 1 or at number 3. I'm not really sure. I just have him at number 2. It's really important for your wide receiver to have good catching and speed. I think a wide receiver is absolutely essential to your team. If you could only have 2 players, I would have number 1 best position and then get a wide receiver. I would rather have 2 wide receivers than a defensive position. That I would rather have 1 wide receiver than like 2 or 3 defensive positions, or like 2 tight ends. I'd rather have 1 wide receiver. That is how critical a wide receiver is. They can win you the game. They are the ones running deep routes. Tight ends and running backs are good to throw to, but they're really just going to catch it 10, 15 yards. Wide receiver getting it 30, 40 plus yards. Really good. But still, I do not quite think the wide receiver is as good as number 1. I think number 1, I'm just going to say it, quarterback is number 1 most essential to win. You don't have a quarterback, it is so hard to win a Retro Bowl. I've personally never done it. It's really hard for me to win a game when my quarterback's injured, because with your no-name quarterback, you can only throw it about 15 yards max, and they are very bad throws, and usually they will result in turnovers or interceptions, and that is very bad. That is how the other team scores, and then your team's just going to go down and lose the game without a quarterback. That's why quarterback is the most essential and best position in Retro Bowl, in my opinion. Obviously, the 2 most important are arm strength and throw accuracy. I would say arm strength is more important. If you can throw it 40 yards, that is much better than being able to throw it accurately, I'd say, because that's why you also have to have a good wide receiver, the second best position in my opinion, to be able to catch those good throws from your quarterback, even if they're not great. But I think quarterback carries the team. My quarterback almost always wins MVP over my wide receiver or my running back or anyone. So that is why I think quarterback is the best position in Retro Bowl. So quickly, just to go over it: number 10, offensive lineman; number 9, kick returner; number 8, kicker; number 7, defensive back; number 6, defensive lineman; number 5, linebacker; number 4, tight end; number 3, running back; number 2, wide receiver; and the best position, quarterback.